So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm Paul Krofssik with Digital Watchdog, and we're going to go over a few things. We're going to go over MEGApix Ai cameras, their basic specs, uh, MEGApix Ai cameras and the Blackjack CX. We've done a whole webinar on the speakers, but AI and the speakers, AI in our illuminators. We released yesterday, but it was like a soft release, and it's on our website, Spectrum 5.1, what the changes are to that, a little bit about a summary, some other information for you on training. So first off, I want to talk about manufacturing and compliance. So we've gone out of our way to make sure all our products are NDAA, TAA compliant. We have most of them now are UL listed. We're still working through that because that is a tedious process. And of course, for video products talking to each other on VIF conformant. We're also doing a lot more deeper integrations with other VMSs. I believe I mentioned it in the last webinar, but we have much deeper integration with Exact, Genetech, and Milestone. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And like I said, we're trying to keep everything so we have good compliance with NDAA and TAA. So let's continue on and talk about the main sort of attraction here, which is the MEGApix Ai deep learning cameras. So what that means is we have cameras that rather than having a separate box, a server box doing the analytics, we have the analytics, which are very similar, except for really one bit of functionality, to our Blackjack AI server. So if you want to go back, there's information on that. We have a webinar just from, I don't know, a month ago, maybe a little more, on our website that has the information on the Blackjack AI servers. But this has the Blackjack, this has the MEGApix AI, the deep learning AI in the cameras, and we have several different models. So the first model we have is this dual camera. Okay, so you can put it in a hallway, corner of a building, point them in different directions, and one channel on here has the AI integrated into it. And we're going to talk about the features and the functionality about the AI very shortly, so don't worry. So we also have a 4K bullet, 30 frames. Again, the AI built into it. Very good low light and a varifocal lens on it. We also have a dome, same specs. Again, built-in AI at the edge on the camera. And then we're releasing an ANPR camera, and we put that in our AI category because it is using video analytics to read what's on the plate. Okay, so we have ANPR, which is automatic number plate recognition. Again, I believe the release model is a 5 megapixel bullet, not a 4K bullet. I don't know how that got on my slide. That was my mistake. Anyway, so being up in the camera again, we're not putting the load on a server. We don't need a very powerful server. If you only have one or two cameras that need AI, rather than getting an extra black box or something like that, you can now just plug a camera in and have it do the AI. So some of the features, and this is a little bit of a wordy slide, but the headlines on the slide say it all. Lightning fast analytics, and now that includes setup. You point the camera at it, you wait a little while, usually it's a couple of minutes. An anonymous attendee, does the ANPR require an AI license? This is license free. So the camera has the AI built into it, and it's how it's integrated into Spectrum. So the ANPR just sends that license plate, which we'll show you into Spectrum in a few. The other feature is a reduced network and storage burden. Again, you don't have an extra black box trying to decode what's going on in the camera, going on in the stream, and things like that. So you're just putting the camera up, it's doing the analytics and then sending that data into Spectrum. Spectrum's interpreting them to do whether you wanted to create alerts or do other activities with other external devices. So the current ones we're going to release are a bullet camera that's 4K, a Vandal Dome that's 4K, the 10 megapixel or 2.5 megapixel dual sensor cameras, and then the LPR bullet that's 5 megapixel cameras. We're using, if you notice, an umbrella chip, which is a US made product. They're all IP67, which is ingress protection. So very little water can get into them. And if you notice, the two bullets are also cold start, which means they'll work in -40. So good for our friends up north, okay, where it gets very cold. So that could be Montana, could be North Dakota, Maine, Canada. So that's also a great feature, and some very long range IR with them. And the thing is that there'll be more models coming. There'll be 4K models. There's going to be models with built-in white light into them. There's going to be other models with built-in other kinds of lighting in it, different configurations of bullets and domes and turrets. So keep an eye out. We'll have a constant update. And as someone asked before, there's full AI licenses in the cameras. Okay, so let's talk about when you get into a camera, the setup. Brian has a question I'll answer at the end. Okay, so we'll answer that one at the end. So anyway, go on to the next. So we're going to talk about setup. So first off, of course, the cameras are fully compatible with our IP finder. So you find the camera in the IP finder. Its default IP address 192.168.1.80. The cameras do have a default username and password, but all that does is allow you to go in and change the username and password to something stronger. Okay, you will get a video stream out of Spectrum, but it really forces you to go in and change the password on the thing, which you can do, by the way, in the IP finder. If we go back, you can do change codec, you can bulk IP assignment, change the date and time, change the password on all the cameras. So this way you can go in and start your installation. But we're going to kind of skip that. We have several videos on our IP finder software already. So this is the web screen of the camera overlooking our lobby here in Tampa, Florida. And the first thing we're faced with is the video settings. So you can change it from H.264 or H.265. Again, if it's a couple of cameras set up, you can go in and do it, or you can use the IP finder software to do it. Resolution, frame rate, profile. So this is all actually put into Spectrum. So Spectrum can actually, when Spectrum talks to the camera, Spectrum actually says, oh, the setting in the schedule is 15 frames a second. So it changes this to 15 frames. By default, that pops out at 30. Spectrum will change to 15 frames a second. It'll choose the bit rate, and the target bit rate. And you can even force the resolution up and down on the first or second or third stream if you want in Spectrum separately. So you don't really have to go to this. I kind of want to show you what the layout and how it looks in here in the setup screens. So again, you've got your exposure settings. You can leave it on auto, usually pretty good to very good, depending on the settings, but you can tweak it for different situations. Like if you have constant lighting looking at one area, you may be able to tweak in rather than having the auto exposure on. You've got your day-night setting. Now your day-night settings can be, we're going to actually talk about this later, but you can disable and enable the IR mode, and there's reasons for doing that. You can leave it in color mode all the time. You can leave it in black and white all the time, or you can put just camera on a schedule saying, okay, this time it's going to turn off, and this time it's going to, the black and white mode is going to turn on, and whether or not the IR mode is working. There's also a lot of sub menus in here that you guys can look at later. And one of them is the fact that you can create event rules in the camera separate from anything else, okay, meaning you don't have to have Spectrum or anything, but if you wanted the video analytics to send an event to product X that takes HTTP requests, this thing can send HTTP requests to another product. So you could conceivably have the camera hung and then a gate with some kind of IP driven device that would drive the gate open and closed, and you could have a vehicle pull up and the gate would open. And we're going to talk about the license plate camera in a little while that you could say, oh, that license plate's acceptable. It opens up. So you could have it separate from Spectrum. Okay. Spectrum is just a great hub because it has a great event and rules engine in it that makes it a little easier, but this thing can send it to wherever you want to send it to, as long as it takes your HTTP requests. So your different rules that are built in to the camera. So again, these are intrusion, line cross, enter, exit, appear. So when we talk about the next one, we create a rule, we have appear, disappear, stopped, loitering, direction, tailgating, counting line, okay, logical rule, and then non-detect zone. Okay, non-detect zones are actually important because you don't want the camera working trying to figure out what a tree is. Okay, that's using up some of the CPU, could be used for something else. So in this particular view, maybe I'd create a non-detect zone right around this palm tree here, and you can create really as many as you want and configure them however you want. You also have logical rules, so you could have two events happen. Okay, so it could be a line cross into an intrusion, or a line cross or an intrusion and then into a loitering, or someone going out the wrong direction and then hitting a line cross or whatever. Or you could have 1, 2, 3, or 4 events before it'll actually create an alert or whatever you want to do in there. So again, all built into the camera. All right. So when we go create a rule, we now choose our classification. So we've got person, motorcycle, cyclist, car, bus, bicycle, van, and bag. So again, you've got that appear one. So you could have it where if a person walks into a certain area, drops a bag and leaves, that bag, it's them, because you're not worried about person, you're worried about bag. So if that bag is sitting there hanging around too long, okay, it appears in that area, or you could actually set it for loitering. The bag's there more than 3 minutes. Create an alert of some sort. Okay. Same thing with a vehicle parked too long. Maybe you have the rear of your building and there's supposed to be no people back there because there's trucks going back and forth. So if a person appears back there, you can create alerts based on that. And like I said, we're going to talk about how the MEGApix AI and Spectrum work together. Okay. So these are just some of the screens in here. Some of them you don't have to touch. Some of them you can go in and tweak some other stuff like tamper protection, again, your HTTP notification. So if one of these rules, you want to send it somewhere else besides Spectrum, because Spectrum is fully integrated with these, you can do that. And of course, you can give the rule a proper name, because it'll just say line crossing, and you might want to give it, a more clear name. So I think I'll answer Jordan's question now. So the rule settings you do at the camera, but you can do them in Spectrum. So meaning you can open up this web page in Spectrum and create the rules, because each camera is going to be specific. So it's not going to be like a blanket rule. You can throw onto a camera, you're going to create a line or a little area and do that. But you can get to this section without having to open the web browser on the camera. And you can even do this remotely. So you could be in a completely another state, log in and say, oh, I've got to tweak this setting, or I've got to add a rule for this person. And you're able to do it via Spectrum, which I'll show you like I said, in a minute. So MEGApix AI and Spectrum, and how it works and what you see. So again, we've got our shot of the outside of our building here in Tampa, and this is the camera, and we've got a tailgating line here. Okay, your IVA loitering here, and then your line cross here. Okay, and you can change the name of those to loitering, whatever you want to do. And so the camera analytics are designed to work seamlessly in Spectrum. You can turn these on and off. So if I go over here, you can see I can turn these on, and then I can hit another thing, turn them back off in Spectrum. Down here, because of the analytics coming through, and there's a car going by, you see these little yellow ticks down here. Those are metadata sent from the camera, so it might be telling me it's a car, a truck, or a person, and confidence level and a bunch of other information is in the metadata, and I can choose what to display and not to display. My tailgating line is if the cars are, closer than 1 second, which means they're just like right behind each other. The way people haul down this little industrial road is unbelievable. So created a thing called tailgating. I'll send out an alert because that can mean there might be an accident up front or whatever, because people drive crazy down this road. Anyway, so the other part of this is we have our speaker. So we've got our video analytics. We've got our speaker that's built into, that's part of Spectrum, the SP15, which we have a webinar on, and we're going to use part of that in our demonstration. I wasn't able to get the audio to feed through, so it's going to be a tiny bit of theater of the mind here. But we've got our AR camera, our new speaker, and a DW illuminator as part of this system on a CX. So we'll continue on here. Oh, wait, see, my video didn't play. There we go. Oh, no, it did. There we go. So again, that's the speaker. There's a little microphone on there. You can do a talk down directly from the speaker if you have a little microphone out there. And then we can go in, and we've now gone into Spectrum. We have our rules. We have a little non-detect zone at the top. We've got a loitering area. We've got our tailgating area and our line cross all here. And now I'm in Spectrum, and I can get to all the setup pages in the camera. So you can be in the Spectrum client, and it does what's called a proxy to the camera. Go to the next one. Sorry, I had to cough there a little bit. You can also turn on and off the display. Now, this is actually coming from the camera, this little line. You can turn these off too, but the redisplay where it has the descriptions on them and whatever can be turned off in the client. And again, we've got let's let that play again. Go over there, go region of interest, and it turns off region of interest. And then this is coming directly from the camera. So this is burning in from the camera, and that can be turned off also. All right. But you can hide those areas if you don't want people to know exactly where the areas you were really monitoring are, especially if you don't want, employees seeing or stuff like that. So how to get this started, I'm going to pause this real quick. This is the event rules engine, and it makes things very easy to set up. So we're going to link the MEGApix AI to the horn for the loitering analytics, and it will play any sound you want. You can record a warning. You can have just a noise, beeps, bops, ringtones, loud blasts of noise if you wanted to, distract someone. If there's people hanging out on the side of a building all night, you set up a loitering analytic, and every now and then when someone moves into a certain zone, they're just going to have a loud blast of sound at them, or a warning saying, hey, we've called the cops, skedaddle or whatever. So you can tie that to the horn, and that's what we're going to do here, is tie it to the horn. So we're going to have analytic event. And by the way, you have analytic options, object detector. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Generic event is when a third-party thing comes in. If there's an input signal, so that can be an alarm input on a camera or alarm input on a third-party device. There's a product called Advantech out there, which is an IO box. Access makes an IO box. Motion on camera, and then, of course, soft trigger, okay, which is you can put a button on the screen, and that button will do what you ask it to do, whether it's open a gate, turn on a light, whatever. And then these are your things that happen in the system. Like maybe a camera disconnect sends a notification to someone in the IT department or something like that. License issue, certificate error. So someone's trying to log in with a bad certificate, meaning maybe they've got to update their PC because they've got a bad SSL certificate. And server failure means the server has either started or has stopped and started, and then storage issue something going on. Maybe the thing's getting too full or whatever, but we have separate stuff on those already. But let's go through. We're going to do an analytic event. We're going to choose our camera. So all these cameras are possible video analytic cameras, but we're just worried about the ones on here. Okay. And this guy here has got the video analytics, which is the one we're going for with the XSB, which is the bullet. And then we're going to choose our analytic, and you can see there's abandon, counting line, appear, disappear, line cross, loitering, logical rule, all those things, including plate number there on the bottom for the cameras that have the ANPR built into them. And then we can choose, whoops, got to go back just a hair, sorry. Bookmark, trigger an alarm output, just tell the camera to record. An HTTP request is to send a command to a third-party device using HTTP commands. Okay, so it'd be something that can handle HTTP requests. Execute a PTZ preset. So again, you could have something detect a person. One camera detect a person in a certain area. PTZ now will whip around and zoom in and let's say do preset number 7, which is a zoom in on that area to get a better look at the person. Play a sound, which we're going to do. Repeat sound, send an email, send a mobile notification is just you connecting to the cloud. As long as your system's connected to the cloud and you've taken your mobile device and at least connected to the cloud once, you will get the mobile notification. Show text overlay, desktop notifications, speak, which is you type in what you want it to say and it'll give that like little robot voice. And then exit full screen, set to full screen, show an alarm layout, open layout, so you can open a specific layout should you have an event. So now you've got a system of a sensor, which is your camera, okay, and then the external devices and things you can do with your events coming from the camera. So this is to set this one up. We're just going to let this play out, play a sound. We're going to select the camera. And then let me show you something that threw me off. If you want this to like react, like, if you want to just be able to hit the horn again and again and again, have it make a sound, you got to uncheck that, because what does it limits you to once per minute. But if you want to just do stuff instantly, whatever, and then you can choose your users that can actually use that will play to that analytic, play to that speaker, but you can choose the users that it'll also play to. So we've got different things in here. We got a ringtone in here, which is actually pleasant. I didn't want anything unpleasant playing outside the building, but can change that. And like I said, theater of the mind, it's actually making this weird sort of ringtone on it. And then we can set our schedule. Maybe we don't want it doing during the day, but maybe at night, from midnight to 7 a.m., maybe 7 p.m. to midnight. We set it so it runs. The rest of the time it won't run. So again, in Spectrum, you're controlling the setup. Then we're going to talk about our illuminators. Okay, so you see this little icon here. This is DW LED light. And so I'm going to jump to the web page of that LED light. And again, I'm in Spectrum doing this. I'm just going to launch the web page. And we're going to look a little bit, brought it up full screen, so it's just easier for you guys to read. And we've got our LED settings. And we can see we can set the power. Now, I actually have the power really low when we start showing you some other video in here, because it was just like too bright on it. And you can see this is a hybrid. You've got your visible LED power and your IR LED power. This is the hybrid illuminator. You can have a strobe mode. You can just flip on and off the light manually here from the web page, or you can use a soft trigger. And then you can decide in this mode whether it's in IR mode or visible light mode, white light mode. And it's just other menus in here: device configuration, IP address. The thing set for DHCP, it'll get an IP address automatically, or you can manually set the IP. You can back up your settings. If there's a firmware upgrade, you can do a firmware update. You can, of course, log out of the web page and so on. And then you can even do using the alarm output. If the LEDs turn on, what is it going to do? So now we're going to shrink this down. And it's hard to tell. It wasn't super dark there, but turn on the light. Now, what I don't have on this light, which I'm going to add, is we've got these dispersion lenses that come with them, or filters, really, dispersion filters. And so what I'll do is I'll spread out the light. And plus I got to point the light up a little bit. It's pointed down a little too tight, but it was good for testing. So you can see very bright. We have a strobe mode in here. Really drive someone nuts. You have the horn going and a strobe, And you can see I'm going to lower the power. Turn on, it'll be much less, smaller area, a little more. So that went down to nothing. So again, showing you the different values and how you can tweak and control the cameras from obviously the camera's webpage, from inside Spectrum, but also find that sweet spot you want in there. So, and then, we go over to here. This is when it's quite a bit darker. And we can go in and flip on the light, flip off the light. It's showing in black and white mode. You can see it's distinguishing cars going by. And again, see, the area is a little too tight, so it actually darkens the image because it's a little too bright. So that's why you got to get it to disperse a little more. And then we can play with the day-night mode. So we can enable the IR in the camera, disable the IR in the camera, set it for day, night, and of course the schedule I showed you before. So that's a little, again, I think everything's pointed down a little too much. It's hitting the grass. So now it's using the auto gain in the camera to bring up the light. So we put it in the day mode, changes everything to color, and we're going to go to the visible LED mode on the IR, so you can actually see how dark it is. There's a little ambient light on there, and then we can make sure that's invisible. You can see how bright it is. We can mess with the exposure settings, things like that. And raise and lower, again, the LED power. So again, it's nighttime. You can see the thing at 30% power. That is so bright, reflecting back. So you actually got to set it to disperse. So, but again, we're doing all this inside the Spectrum, and we're controlling it, and we can control this light via the video analytics. Okay. So here's me hanging out, waiting for 2 minutes to go by. And then, of course, the light comes on. It has me as a person at a solid 70%. I'm solid 70% people. And then I'm like taking prisoners. See, I've got loitering and line cross appear on the event. And then we're just going to go past that because I look like a crazy person. Anyway, as we said before, you also don't necessarily need a rule. Okay. You can just say, I want to get a specific AI object detected. So if it's detecting a person, a car, a bag, whatever, it will then, you can apply and create events based on that. So it might just be, like I said, maybe behind a building, it's the whole view of the camera, even if there's a little bit of sky or, a little bit of a wall or whatever. You don't want people behind this building because, at night, because there's trucks back there and people can't be loitering around or whatever the reason is. you can just have it detect objects. So you don't have to have a rule, because the camera's always sending down its data, its metadata, and we're just capturing that metadata and say, oh, vehicle, do this. Okay, person, do this. Cyclist, do this. Bicyclist, do that, and so on. So you can just do it by analytic object detection. All right. Now, the next thing is this is now a much more complete system than just having a camera. I can turn on and off the light from these little soft triggers. I can have, again, you can't hear the horn. You can talk down to the horn, or you can just turn on the horn and have it, send out, whatever message you want to send out. And those are your soft triggers. So you can create soft triggers. You could have soft triggers for different notifications, meaning you'd have one that say, hey, welcome to Digital Watchdog, or welcome to place X. Someone will be open the door for you in a minute, because someone's up there, sees you pull up, you have that. Or maybe it's after hours, you could have an auto one saying, hey, you're been hanging around here too long, beat it. Okay, so you can use the illuminators for extra illumination. You can go in and do what do you call it? Use it for deterrent, so they strobe and flash, and you have the horn doing that. I got a question of how to add soft triggers. Remind me at the end, and I'll jump into Spectrum and show you. It's pretty easy to add them. But like I said, this is now a complete system. Okay, but we're going to talk about a couple of other cameras we're releasing. Right now, we're going to release an ANPR camera, which is a license plate camera. So what it'll do is, as a vehicle goes by, it'll detect the plate, and then you can decide what you want to do with that data. Maybe it's just to collect the data, and if someone came through, you can type in the search engine above for, hey, what was that plate that keeps coming by here? XJ7. So you type in XJ7, and it'll search for how many times that plate has gone by that particular camera. The cool thing about the camera, it is a color camera, but it's doing the capture in this area, which is 2 lanes wide. I think it's about 35, 40 feet wide. So you could have 2 cars go through it, and it'll detect the plates on both vehicles, one going in, one going out, so to speak. So again, really another addition to making a complete system. So you might have 1 or 2 analytic cameras on the back of the building, or in the building monitoring what people are doing, and then outside you have an entrance and an exit. So you might have 2 of these cameras. So it might be a total of 4 cameras doing analytics, doing different things for you. So when we look inside the setup of the camera, again, we don't have to go look to Spectrum. This is our area we're searching on, right? That's our view. And then these are the vehicles that pass by. We're going to have 2 models. The first model to come out is going to be just doing the date, time, license plate, and then this is a black and white representation of the license plate, which actually what it captures, and it shoots that in here and puts it in the notification pane. And then we're going to have another version, which this one is, which is going to do make, model, color. Color will require you to do, of course, having some extra light out there so you can see the color of the cars, because if the camera flips over to full black and white at night, it'll say every car is either black, white, or gray. All right. So this is the representation inside the camera. So we've got the camera, we've got the US Dodge Charger, and then you'll have your make, model, color down here. And like I said, again, if it's too dark, it's not going to tell you what it is. And then you've got your view here of the Dodge Charger going in. So our MEGApix AI IP cameras does automatic number plate recognition. It can get the exact numbers and letters in a license plate up to 75 miles an hour with about a 95% accuracy. It converts the pixels. Wow, I can't read. Pixels to usable digital data, converting them to a searchable text database inside of Spectrum. All right, so again, you got your cars coming in. It's going to show your list of plates here. So again, it's doing both. It gives you it's an overview camera, but it's also capturing the plates. And then, like I said, we're going to have 2 models. We're going to have an ANPR, and then we're going to have a make, model, color version. So I've got a couple questions that came up. Like I said, I'll do soft triggers. What's the line crossing used for? That was just added there to, for someone to do line crossing on it. That's all. That was just our demo unit, and people are constantly messing around with it. So sorry. Let's see. Next is we're going to talk about the, oops, mouse is in the wrong spot, is the sight watch, okay, which is our motion detector, illuminators, and horn speakers. Just want to remind you guys, we have a laser motion detector that you can put down up to 1,600 feet, 1,640 feet, I guess. Works without anything at the other end. And if someone, jumps over a fence halfway through or whatever, that can go in and be used also as part of a spectrum system. We also have the regular microwave motion detectors. And again, we have our illuminators. So we have our illuminators that are hybrid with visible and white light. We have our just IR ones that are visible and invisible, meaning the thing's going to glow a little red, or it can be up at 940 nanometers and be invisible IR light. And then, of course, we have the horn we were talking about. So now you have these things to cover the perimeter. You have deterrence. You can, again, set the illuminators to be just a little extra lighting, and you don't have to have an electrician come out to add the lighting. And then how do you make that lighting talk to spectrum? You can use a PoE switch or a regular switch with an injector on it, power up the camera, and then spectrum or other devices can control them. So the mobile app, okay, very important. We have an Android and iOS app. They work identically, okay? They'll work on Wi-Fi, LAN, WAN, 4G, 3G. The connections are encrypted, and the video is encrypted between the Spectrum server and that, which again is very important. There are adjustable resolutions. Again, once you if you go to 5.0, which we'll talk about, there's shared layouts. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. Live thumbnails on the cameras. You decide which camera you want to do. You just pops up and you click one of the thumbnails there. It's a very cool app to use, but also it does fish ID warping. The soft triggers that you'd have on your server appear here. You have two-way audio. So if you have a speaker and a device for a mic, okay, you can talk down through the app. If you're on a very slow connection, there'll be a little bit of a delay, but it's very minor. They've actually managed to work with it quite nicely. And like I said, you can do almost all the functions in the large app, but on that small screen, it's been redesigned, so you can do it on the small screen. And again, you can do PTZ cameras and presets, things like that. You can also do a search smart motion detection. You can see the motion events that are in there. We have the same flexible timeline, again, just geared toward the smaller screen. And also we have push notifications built into it. So when a vehicle goes by and does oops, went too fast. Here we go. Come here. Sorry. Vehicle goes by, it'll send out the notification. It is that fast, by the way. The vehicle goes by, you'll get the notification. I've sat there and played with this on slow networks, fast networks. The one thing they have is that notification done really, really well. Let's talk about, though, the fact that we're adding some features to our Gen 5. We're adding a feature review. We're calling this 5.1, but it's still Spectrum Generation 5. And as you know, it's a full featured VMS, but we've added some remote log downloads. So again, company needs a little more information about what's going on inside the server, or there's a technical problem that our tech support hasn't seen before. Now we can remotely download the logs. You can choose your on-VIF profile selection. Not a big deal. sort of in the background. Most OnVIF is automatic, but some cameras are implementing OnVIF in a weird way. I won't name the manufacturer, but it is not us. Cross system layouts. So now you can have systems, okay, that are not merged, but see cameras from non-merged systems on the same layout, and then camera replacement. So cross-system layout. So operators with rights on multiple systems, meaning multiple little rectangles on your main view, can view different cameras from different systems on a layout. So I think that's a huge thing. You have someone who says, hey, I've got all these separate sites, but I want to see the front door from each site, or I want to see the garage in each site, or whatever the case may be. We can go in, you can go in and create a layout that would be the front door from, let's just say Bob's Donuts. Got 10 locations. So he'd have 10 squares without having to merge the systems together. Okay. Those of you guys familiar with Spectrum, merging is where you take a number of systems and you combine them together into one system, which means they appear on your left-hand side as server, number of camera. If you're an administrator, server, let's just say there's 20 cameras each, server, 20 cameras, server, 20 cameras, server, 20 cameras. When they're not merged, you log in and it's just server and then the 20 cameras. But now you'll be able to see cameras from other sites. So very, very cool. We'll have more on this and how to do it very shortly. Camera replacement. So there was always a way to do this, which was, tech support would usually be involved. Now we have a very straightforward way to go in, and you've gotten rid of an old camera, didn't work right. Okay. Plug it in, whether you give it the same IP address or not. You go in and then the archives will match, meaning you go to that camera, and except for the time it was down during the replacement or the other camera went down, and then you got to get out there the next day or the day or two later. There might be those 2 days missing, but it'll be on the same timeline. So you can replace a camera very easily. You still got to set your motion detection again, and if you have two-way audio and other functions have to be reconnected because it is a new camera and might do things differently. But now you can have it. There's no, again, there was a way to do it, but it was a pain, to be honest with you. So we have that. And then the remote log retrieval, which again, more for a tech support thing, but also for you. You may want to have a customer saying something's going on. You say, I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm pretty experienced. I'm going to download these logs. I'm just going to take a look at them and says, oh, it keeps saying this port's blocked or can't connect or whatever. And, you may be able to figure it out yourself. I think our customers are smarter than most. So that's why you have access to it. It's not a secret. And I just love the fact you can pull out more information. And if the client has a log, you can see what the client is doing, or the server has a log. Again, you can see what's going on with the server. So the other thing is cybersecurity add-ons. We have upped our game and cybersecurity in all of our products. So we're now, of course, added two-factor authentication. So you can use the Google Authenticator, you can use the Microsoft one or Dual Mobile, and this way it allows you to verify people who are either logging in, or they verify themselves saying, yeah, I'm Bob, I'm logging in. It forces you to do the authentication. I, prefer simpler, but we're in a world now where everyone's trying to hack into everything, and you need these enhancements. And plus the fact when you're trying to be NDAA compliant, TAA compliant, California IoT compliant, which is another compliance we have to add these security features into it, and it also makes customers feel better. I mean, we get calls now. How do I set up this two-factor authentication? It's pretty straightforward. But how do I set it up? How do I test it? All that stuff. So we get calls on it all the time. We were getting people ask about it all the time. It's been on RFPs and RFQs we've gotten. So gotta keep up with, especially security stuff. You got to keep up with the Joneses. So the other thing is archive encryption. So you can encrypt the archive on every server. Okay. Again, this has been a requested feature from large corporations and government. Although there is one caveat: password that cannot be reset. If you lose it, the archive will be unrecoverable. So make sure you secure that archive. It's serious encryption. Work on any storage or any medium, and the system owner can create the encryption key. And then more secure connections. So you can set up so you have SSL, TLS connections, server to client, and then server to camera. Okay, so again, the whole thing from your client software, whether it's the FAT client, whether it's the mobile client, are now can now be secured and encrypted. Someone trying to capture it, they'd have to have some, something in the middle to try to crack it. So just a higher, more secured connection. So let's talk a little bit about programs and trainings. So first off, we encourage you guys to go and sign up if you haven't already for our CPP program. The URL's on the bottom. If you email me, I will email you back all the information. If you're a member of our CPP program, we get you enhanced margins because you're a member, and if you're buying lots of stuff, we get special project pricing. We have product design support, sales lead allocations, but we also have in your portal, you also have access to our Double Down program, which means you can get free or no cost licenses from Digital Watchdog for your Spectrum system. You guys probably know this, but I figured I'd let you know. And then DWU. So again, this video is going to be posted. It's probably semi-educational. We also have our old webinars in there. We also are constantly posting new videos that highlight one feature. So let's say it's two-factor authentication setup, or regular playback search or whatever. We have case studies, and then we have our resource library. You're looking for a specific thing like a PDF on whatever is a search thing. The other thing we're doing is in-person training. So there'll be a little block that'll appear here, by the way. But right now, if you go to https://digitalwatchdog.com/search training, we have 3 posted on there already. 2 have sold out, but we're adding, probably be tomorrow, Minneapolis, San Antonio, Houston, Detroit, Chicago, Toronto, Montreal. I guess that's Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, and probably a few others because we've already, like I said, sold out some. So we've got to go back and the people who couldn't sign up. These are small classes, usually no more than 20 people. We do them at a local hotel or training room. We supply you breakfast and lunch, and you become DW certified. It is an all-day event. Like I said, if you want to know in a city near you, it's actually not San Antonio is the city. It's actually New Braunfels, which is between San Antonio and Austin. So it's kind of halfway between. But anyway, that's that. Let's get to the Q&A. So let's see. How do I create soft triggers? So we're going to go. We have one question on how to create soft triggers. So we're going to go. Can you guys see this okay, by the way? Everyone still here? See it? Okay. I assume that's a yes. So how to create a soft trigger. I'm logged into our California office, and I've got administrative rights. You go to camera rule. You go add. You choose your thing. So again, analytic event, analytic object detection, but we go down to soft trigger. We choose our device of where we want this camera to be on. I think it's this one I'm on. Okay. And then you've got to choose your users it can be on. So I'm going to choose the owner. And I think I'm logged in as Paul K. Yeah, so I got to find Paul K here. And you can see we have tons of users in here, tons of users. I guess we've got a search would be fastest. There it is, Paul K. That's me. And then we're going to create our thing. We're going to, I don't have a PTZ, but you can put this here. I'll do show text overlay. And we'll click this, use custom text and say, hello, apply. Oh, I got to select my device again. Next class. I think that's the right one. Just in case. And then there'll be a thing over here and you click it and it would display hello on the screen. I think I chose the wrong camera. Here we go. X class series. There we go. See, hello. So that is a soft trigger, but you can tell it to do anything. If I go in and edit that particular rule, where's my soft trigger? I can have it do an HTTP request, which means I would need the URL of the camera with the command, and I put the login information here. And then it will perform that command off that soft trigger or off an analytic event or off an analytic object detected. So there's bag, bicycle, boat, cyclist, group of people, head, face, truck, van, something unclassified wandering around your building. We'll just discard that. So that's how to do a soft trigger. If you want more info, glad to help you out. Let's go back.